Hello and welcome everyone to Over and Back, brought to you by the Unintentional Podcast Network. I am joined by a special guest, AC from 5 Point Play Podcast.
How you guys doing?
Uh, I wanted to do this with one of you guys because I just got back from North Carolina from
Right.
from my first ever Duke trip. So I was hoping that as many of you guys could hop on. It's only you for now. Maybe someone else will join.
Right, right.
We'll make do. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
No, I'm very happy to be on. Obviously we have spoken in person on our show over Twitter and multiple times now for the past year or so, especially when things kind of got heated with Duke and Khan. And I mean I think that's pretty much when we got started, right?
I think so.
Was
Yeah.
when that recruitment was happening. So
Yeah.
it's been awesome getting to know you. It's been awesome getting to work with you. So I'm very excited to come on your show for the first time now.
It's fun. I like having connections like in North Carolina and get advice from people and things. So it
Yeah,
has
how's the trip, man?
the trip was awesome. Um, I don't, I was thinking about it tonight. I didn't go into it like expecting, like envisioning myself walking into Cameron Indoor until like I actually
Right.
walked into Cameron Indoor. So I was glad that I did that because I didn't have any, I didn't have any expectations of what it was going to be or wasn't going to be. It wouldn't have mattered. It was going to be awesome regardless. So.
Right.
It was incredible. It was everything that I would have thought if anything I thought about it was great.
Yeah.
Great. Place is way smaller than I thought.
It's a lot smaller than it seems, but you always hear people mention it and say it like it's like a high school gym or whatever. But there's a lot of college stadiums that are, they have less seats and they feel bigger just because of how spaced they are, how tall they are, whatever. But this gym is like so condensed.
Yeah. I knew it was small. Walked in there and I was like, this is way smaller than I thought it
hmm
was.
Even from the outside, it's kind of unassuming. Like
Yep.
unless you know it's Cameron, you don't really know you're at Cameron.
That's funny because we get there on Saturday. We stay in Raleigh Saturday night.
hmm
Raleigh downtown's awesome. I
Yeah.
was 5 minutes. We were 5 minutes in and I texted my boys right away. I'm like, you guys need to live here. This is where you need to set up shop. It's just a fun area, and
It is.
it was Halloween that night, so there was a ton of people out.
hmm
Um, and I'm with Jeff Khan's uncle, and
hmm
he's a big brewery guy, and he's a big sightseer. He's like, we got to see all this stuff. So I will say this is the one bad thing about Raleigh. The Capitol building is terrible. It's like I'm looking at like a business building for like a UW school.
I don't think I've actually seen their Capitol
Oh
building.
my, it's nothing. And so from Wisconsin, Madison is probably has one of the best Capitol buildings in the country.
Okay.
Really, really cool. And Jeff said, we gotta go get a picture by the Capitol building. And we walk up to it. I'm like, this is it? This is where we're getting a picture of it. So we did that, did a lot of sightseeing. And then Sunday we left, and on our way to Durham, we decided, well, let's go check out NC State a little bit. Went and took a picture of the bell tower, and
hmm
then we went through Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill is really cool too.
It is. It's nice. It's nice.
But you bring up, it's unassuming. The Dean Dome, the Dean Smith Center is like, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's nothing special at all.
Right.
So drove through Chapel Hill, really, really cool campus, and then got to Durham. We didn't actually visit Cameron or the campus at Duke until Monday before the game. We were like,
Okay.
let's check it out. Let's see what it is. It's incredible. And I'm not saying that as a
Yeah.
Duke fan. Everyone I was with was like, this is the most amazing campus I've ever been on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blown away. Like I know why basketball players go there because it's Duke.
hmm
Now I know why other people just go to Duke because it's really, really nice.
It's a beautiful place, man. I visited there in high school for colleges and things, and it's really funny. They've actually done a lot in terms of cleaning up the city of Durham as well. Like the university has a better relationship with Durham now, where it didn't before. And when I went to visit, it was like we were in like it was like a sketchy neighborhood, and then all of a sudden you're on this like pristine, like almost Ivy League as college campus. You're like, what is going on here? Like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was like there's a Duke West and a Duke East campus.
hmm
I didn't know that.
hmm
So we didn't get to the Duke East. We were the main, the main spot. We were down at um Tobacco Road,
Okay. Okay.
right? So it overlooks the Durham Bulls Stadium.
Yep. Yep.
We spent we watched the Packers played late on or afternoon game. We watched Packers.
Did
Went
you guys go
home.
to Cloud Brewing?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's such a good spot. The food and beers there are incredible.
Or
Next time
maybe
you're there,
I don't. So we went to a few breweries after we visited Duke. I don't even know what the hell they were called.
Okay, okay.
We went to like the little food. There was like a food hall
Okay, yep, I know what you're talking
place,
about.
and
Yeah.
then we drove to. I don't know if it was a brewery, but it was like they had mostly Mexican food.
Okay.
Then we went to like a pizza place that was also.
Gotcha. If I come, I know you mentioned going down again later on the season. If I'm able to make the same game you are, I'll make sure we go to Cloud Brewing. You'll like it.
Okay, I'm surprised. Jeff was doing all the brewery stuff. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
You'd pick the breweries. I don't know. But yeah, we were at Tobacco Road for two different set. We watched a Packer game there, came back to the hotel, grabbed Jeff's friend from high school,
Okay.
and then went back for the Vikings game because he's a Vikings fan.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it was awesome. It was
Hmm.
it was incredible. Got to go after the game. Got to go in like the family room with all
Oh,
the
nice.
players' families.
Yep, yep.
And then Khan finally came out and then took us through kind of like the back area. Went to the K Center, checked out the practice, the practice courts, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Came out to the locker room. Cooper Flagg came out like 2 feet. He's right with Cooper and his family was there. He had a bunch of people in. So
Okay.
talked to his family for a little bit, and then we got to go in the locker room for a little bit,
Yeah.
which is really small.
It is. Very
I
small.
was I was surprised. Really cool, really bright,
They've
but
redone it.
yeah,
The first time I'd ever seen the locker room, it was, I mean, it's almost like a cage. Like you would think, it looks like what you think a visitor's locker room would look like. That's what it looked like until they redid it in the early 2000s, for recruiting and some of that other stuff and just, made it a better facility and everything. But it was really like, it wasn't a special locker room before either.
yeah, that's what we were talking to. I forget Stanley's last name, but Stanley was in there talking to
Oh,
us.
Stanley Borden, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he was giving us the kind of the history of it, and he was like, it was
Okay.
all dark wood or whatever, and it looks really cool now.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was fun. The game itself, we were 3 rows behind the bench.
Okay.
I was basically straddling Malik Brown's dad the whole time. You're just on top of each
You
other.
are, man. It's like, it's so tight there.
And you start thinking like we're in the family section. All of these kids have huge parents.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm 6 feet tall. Like I'm
Right.
okay. And I'm scrunched, but like
Right.
Jeff's 6'6". Malik Brown's
Yep.
are big is um
Ralph Flagg, I know he's tall.
yeah, I can't imagine being that size and fitting in,
Yeah.
fitting in those seats. I'm glad that they weren't wood benches. They're cushioned seats,
So
which is nice.
it was crazy with at the UNC game when all the players came back for Coach K. I mean, just like you're talking about. I mean, those are like giant human beings, and they're all
Yeah.
like scrunched in there behind the bench, basically where you were. And it was like, it's like, how do you fit all those guys there? Like they
Yeah.
were there, like turned sideways. I mean, you had Sheldon Williams beside Carlos Boozer, beside Christian Laettner. This is like giant people.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being that tall or big
Hmm.
and fitting there. It's tight. I mean it's cool. It's the atmosphere of it. So
Yeah.
it's really nice. Yeah, what the hell was I just gonna say too? Anyways, it'll probably come across my mind, but the game itself was just, I mean, it was a great game, right?
Yeah.
Con played, if we just want to get specifically to Con played awesome.
Hmm.
Um, Shot really well. I think I don't think you could have asked for much of a better game. From anyway, it
Uh-huh.
was a really, really fun atmosphere.
No, absolutely, man. And like you said, I mean, Khan was kind of the main event of that game in particular. He's gonna have such a special season. I mean, it's like I think people are starting to understand how good the players are coming out of Wisconsin. I think this is something that's been a trend, Wisconsin and Minnesota even. Just that kind of Midwest North, a lot of good players coming out of those spaces, and you're starting to see more of the Wisconsin kids get some love and things. I mean, like just look at the NBA with Jalen Johnson right now. I mean, he's turned the image he had around, and
Yep.
he's really doing great things for the Hawks. So it's really cool to see the Wisconsin guys get the love that they deserve because I mean, you can tell. I mean, you told us all summer about him playing in the men's league. They mentioned it on the show, on the game. I mean, rather. Between playing in the men's league, between what we had all seen before, where it's like no matter who his competition is, bad competition, great competition, he is the same player. It doesn't matter. You cannot stop him from doing what he wants to do. And I'm really happy that people get to see what he's doing right now because
Yeah.
I mean it's amazing. I mean the fact that he missed all his threes in the first half and then the second half he just I mean you can see it too, like the determination on his face, like this isn't stopping me. I don't care about these missed shots.
Well, the Arizona State game that he missed those threes in the first
Oh
half.
yeah, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So Maine, I mean, he scored the first bucket on
He
a two
scored the first
layup.
bucket. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of. I got to see this stat. So I did a podcast with Jeff before the season, before we
Hmm.
went, and I posed this question to him, and I'll ask you, and it kind of goes back to how Con is in men's league and all and everything. I said, Do you think he will have a game this year where he will score single digit points? Or will every game be double digits? And Jeff looked at me like I was crazy. Like, oh yeah, he'll have a single digit game. And I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, like the chances of it are low. Like, especially because the team's going to rely on him to score. There's a lot of different players on this team who can score. So if he is having an off night, cool. But he's going to get his opportunities, and I think that's the biggest thing. He's going to get his chances to score. So I'm kind of with you. I doubt that he's going to have a single digit point night. I mean, Jason Williams had a game where he had like 9 points one time. So. I mean, it can happen to anyone, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's unlikely. It's very unlikely that Khan has that because he is relied on to score with this team in particular.
So we talked about it and I looked at the stats. So I know it's high school and this is not Duke,
Mhm.
but only one game over his junior and senior year of high school did he score single digit points.
So
And
he probably won't this year.
and six times in his sophomore year that he scored single digit. Like
hmm
he's just he's so efficient
Yeah,
and he's gonna get the shots. No one's double teaming him. Like in high school, he was double teamed
right.
all the time. Like he's just
Yeah.
and I
He
just
can't be
sorry.
double teamed. No, no, you're fine. Sorry, I cut you off. He can't be double teamed on this team. And honestly, with Caleb Foster being the one handling the ball, you kind of can't put your best perimeter defender on Khan to
Right.
start the game at least. Anyway, like you might move him over because he's destroying you, but to start the game, you probably won't. Not because he's not capable. It's just because the guy with the ball needs to have. And if the guy with the ball can score, he needs to have the best defender on the team on him.
Yeah, I just I said something too to my buddy too. I think 50% from three is a realistic goal from three for him.
It's tough. I mean, that's tough. So he was 3 for 8 against Maine, right? And
Yeah.
then 4 for 6 the game after with Army, which we'll get to. But one of the things I loved in the Maine game was that he got so many shots on the interior as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Didn't just settle for the threes because I mean he's already being labeled as just a shooter or whatever, so that's not that's not cool. But one of the things that I love about Khan in his game like JJ Redick, if some of your listeners don't know, Duke history with him or whatever, like JJ had a problem, especially in college, when you put athletic defenders on him, long, athletic 6'5", 6'7" defenders who can run all over the floor, chase him off screens, yada yada yada. That doesn't affect Khan.
No.
Number one, he's already bigger than him. Number two, he's stronger than all of them, and he's going to get a shot however he wants, whether it's on the interior or on the exterior. Like he's a true three-level scorer. That's why he's getting all the NBA love. Like it's like
Yeah.
you can't stop what he does, man. Like his game is not predicated on speed, so it's not like slowing him down does anything. You can't speed him up. And then again, like I just mentioned, like whatever defender you put on him, he's gonna find a way to get around that guy.
Well, yeah, you can even see the 2 point baskets that he had in
Mhm.
Maine. It's not like he's blowing by guys. I mean, he can get angle. He has the angles.
Right.
He's just got crafty little moves, and he's so strong. He absorbs
hmm
contact, no problem. He finishes really well. Like you can get him off his point, but he still knows how to finish
Yep.
when he's near the hoop, regardless if he gets bumped or not.
Yep. And then
Uh,
he's a smart defender. You don't take him
yeah.
off the floor if you're John Shire because he's a smart defender. He can defend. He's not a liability on that side of the court, so he stays on the floor. So, like you to your point, like a single digit night is highly unlikely.
I was really that was one of the things that impressed me the most against Maine was his defense. I thought he played really, really
hmm
well
Yeah.
defensively. That was probably one of the things that people said the most, right? Was he's not athletic enough and
hmm
can he guard? And he clearly can guard.
hmm
And I clearly think he's athletic enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's people are coming around. This is what I wanted to say before. So I've never met TK,
Okay.
but I've watched you guys obviously, so I know for the most part what you guys
Yep.
all look like. So I'm getting drinks so Duke has that like room in the second floor, whatever you can get drinks. So we go up there
Yep.
before the game, and there's like two lines, and the credit card machine's not working on the right. So I go to the left. I look to my right. I'm like, I think that's TK, but I don't know him. I've never met him. You know what I mean? And I should have checked a
Yeah.
pot
Yeah.
or whatever and went and I was like, and I don't know if TK knows what I look like. I have no idea how much I had my unintentional shirt on.
Right.
So, I mean, I thought was like, oh, maybe it's not TK. Maybe he would have came up to me because he saw my
hmm
unintentional shirt. I don't know. But he was at the game, so it had to have been him.
It was definitely him. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I thought that was
Yeah, man. He's down there. Another one of our members on the podcast, Dustin D. He's down there as well. So those
yeah,
two are representing us in North Carolina.
yeah, okay. All right, so that's the main stuff, I think.
hmm
There's nothing else really to go to. So
Yeah,
Army,
not really.
And I know you guys talked about the main stuff. I appreciate the shout out. I listen to you guys, so I appreciate the shout
Mm-hmm.
out. So Army, it's crazy. He led the team in scoring at 15 points. Like it just was like a whole
That's
all right, 15 points led the
yeah.
team.
That's probably
But
indicative of the season for Duke too.
I know that's you start wondering how many points these guys can average, and
Mhm.
if there's going to have 5 or 6 guys in double figures every game,
Right.
who knows what that looks like other
Yeah,
than
and
really good.
the thing I like though, I don't usually like that with teams where okay, they have a bunch of guys who can score, but they don't have a true scorer. That's not the case with this team, and that's the thing I like so much. It's
Yeah.
not that we don't have a true scorer, so everybody's got to score 12 to 15. It's that we have true scores. It's just that everybody else is so good that they can score 12 to 15. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I have said this forever with Khan specifically of scoring. I'm just like his run's gonna come.
Hmm.
He's gonna like so if we go the first 10 minutes and he hasn't gotten a shot or
Right.
whatever, it's like it's coming.
Yep.
There's just gonna be a clip where he just goes and gets enough and he gets heated a little bit and then there's
Yeah.
10. It's gonna happen. It'll happen almost every game.
Yep.
It's just it's just how he is.
Yeah.
So
It is, and it reminds me of early 2000s and late 90s Duke teams where they were built on runs. Like it was expected. It was okay, there's going to be a run at some point where Duke goes 19 of 3, or 19-2-3 and a lead that you might have as the other team, you might lead by 7 and all of a sudden you find yourself down by 12 and it's like what just happened? That's
yeah.
going to be the case with this team and because of guys like Khan and some of the others, it's like you said, these are going to be Cooper segments for the next 3 minutes. These are going to be come on or Caleb segments for the next 3 minutes. Tyrese, he's going to get a couple shots these next segments, and then all of a sudden here comes Khan. All right, it's time for you to get your shots again because most of the time the offense is going to be run for him to start games.
Yeah.
First 2 or 3 plays of the game are going to be run for Khan to have some kind of an option to score.
It's funny because they've run the same play to start the game in both
Yep,
games.
yep, 2 times in a row.
It's not exactly the same personnel, maybe.
Right.
I'm just gonna assume that they're gonna run it on Tuesday again. They're just gonna run it, and it's like if the lob's there, the lob's there. I think against Army, I think Khan took it and got blocked,
Right.
but they're clearly running that play every time.
Yep.
I thought Army was interesting because they face guarded Khan right off the bat,
They did.
and if any of us who've played basketball, it's like this is not sustainable. You cannot
Yep.
face guard someone for an entire 40 minutes of
Yeah.
basketball. You just cannot, and it obviously he got a
Unless,
shot.
unless your name is Garrett Temple and you're playing Duke in the NCAA tournament as
Oh,
LSU. Oh my God. That dude, I mean, that defensive performance is incredible. Like, I hated that game, but shouts to him. He made an NBA career off of that because
so
that's spectacular.
obviously, my listeners know this, and I think so like JJ Redick
Hmm.
is my favorite human being of all time. Like
Hmm.
I've said this, if I could meet Michael Jordan or JJ Redick, I would meet JJ Redick. That's how much I love JJ Redick.
I've played against him twice.
Oh my God,
Didn't didn't turn out well either
I
time.
can't imagine it would. Yeah, because you're from Virginia, aren't you?
Yep, yep,
Yeah. Well, there you
yep.
go. So, like my dog's name is Redick.
Okay,
Like my bucket list, 1B was what I just did last week. 1A will be January when I get to take my boys down there. Like
okay.
it'll be my top of the line thing. That's what I have control over. My ultimate dream is to shoot threes with JJ Redick, just in a gym.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's so. Anyways, so Tyus or Tyrus?
Tyrus Thomas, yeah.
Tyrus. Jesus. I was thinking of Tyus Jones. Tyrus Thomas is a coach for GB,
Okay.
UWGB
Yep,
basketball.
that's right. That's right.
So my uncle, who is a GB alum, they have a golf outing every summer. So he takes
Mhm.
me. I've gone the last 2 summers, and Tyrus is there, and I'm in line getting food, and I go, I don't really hate you, but I absolutely hate you. And he goes, Let me guess, you're a Duke fan. And I'm like, No.
His
He's
career
like,
was based off of that,
he's
man.
like, all you Duke fans. I'm like, and I just kind of gave him a background, whatever. But it was kind of fun to talk to him about everything. But yet,
Yeah.
that is one of the worst memories of my life.
Hmm.
Is that Duke LSU game? The other one is when I think Reddick was a freshman when we lost to UConn in the Final Four.
Oh, that's his sophomore year. I hate that game so
Sophomore,
much.
I came
Yes.
back home and my dog had crapped everywhere in the kitchen through the cage.
Uh,
So I was like,
that's
Duke lost, and I get to clean up dog
yeah.
all night.
That's indicative of that kind of night. God, that was a horrible game.
Yeah. So, anyways, okay. So, give me your Reddick story. When have you played against Reddick?
So, and it started AAU. He played actually it was him and Carmelo Anthony on the same team, Boo Williams. Carmelo came down and moonlighted for Boo and so did Reddick because Reddick wasn't normally with Boo. Moonlighted with them in a tournament we were at, and then I mean, we're a small little town in Virginia. Um, actually a pretty good basketball history because our basketball coach has won the most games in Virginia history.
Okay.
But very good, very great legacy there. But man, like it was just different, man. It was like that was the first time that tournament itself was the first time I had seen different when it came to basketball. Like everybody else is kind of about the same height as us, speed, all the other stuff, and then you actually see guys who are gonna go on, and it's like JJ Redick was like 6'2" at the time. Carmelo Anthony was only a 6'3" at the time, but he could dunk. I don't know if you or any of your listeners remember Shavlik Randolph.
Well,
He
yeah, of
was at the
course I
same
do.
tournament. Shav was probably the most impressive human being I had ever
Yeah.
seen at that time. He was 6'7" and he was their point guard. I was like, this doesn't make sense.
Jeez.
This is not fun, man. Nothing is fun about this right now. But so that was the first experience. It was him coming down on the break on the wing. He would shoot a three. Melo would shoot a three. He would shoot a three. Melo would go dunk. JJ would do an up and under layup, then go shoot a three from 25 feet again. It's like this doesn't make sense. This does I don't get this. So that was the first time. The second time was actually in high school. Cave Spring High School is where he went. Our high school played Cave Spring in a Christmas tournament, and my cousin, pretty athletic guy, actually went on to play wide receiver at Maryland, was guarding JJ for the first half of the game. He was the best defender on the team, and he had him locked up. It was like I think JJ had maybe 10 points on like probably like one or two of like 10 shooting, like horrible night for him. Kind of almost indicative of what he ran into in college, which was that Garrett Temple thing of, long, lengthy defender who can attack him or whatever. But my cousin's on him, doing a great job. The coach decides to go, we can get in this kid's head. Let's put this. We had a trash talker who could not play. He's a traffic cone on defense. All
Okay.
he would do is talk smack. So he's like, let's put him on him. We'll get in his head. Game over. And I'm a Duke fan, and I know that Duke is recruiting him. He had already committed to Duke at that point in time, because he committed as a sophomore. This is his junior season. I was like, it's not a good idea. I've seen him play like a couple guys on my team. Were like we played against him at AAU. Like, don't talk to him. And
Yeah.
coach is like, no, we got this. We got this. It's like, all right, coach, you won the most games. I get it. Um, he comes out immediately. The guy is chirping at him before they even inbound the ball. K Spring had it first. He's pushing up on him, bumping him with his chest, everything else. JJ's like, he's like, okay. Then he's getting frustrated, mad. Play hadn't started. He's like asking the ref to like put the ball in the like start to play because he just wants it done. And he just keeps talking at him. He's like, then JJ gets demonstrative. He starts clapping. He's like, give me the effing ball. Give me the effing ball. Like through the whole gym. They throw it into him. Two dribbles inside half court. He just pops it and just, I mean, nails it. And and then he starts the head bob and the stuff that from college. He was doing that
Yep.
in high school as well. And proceeded to put, I think, 21 or 23 on us in that quarter alone. And then we were down by 22 and he didn't play the entire fourth quarter. So
Jeez. Yeah, his high school games. I have a few of his high school games on DVD that I bought like
yeah.
online. Incredible.
It's stupid stuff. I was at the state championship game where he went nuts against
Yep.
Marion High School, and I know that one makes its rounds because I think the highlights are actually on YouTube as well.
Probably, yeah.
And it was incredible, man, because you're seeing a kid. I mean, he had a broken foot, so he was running around on one foot and played the entire game, didn't come out 1 minute, and is just coming off curls, off picks, just screens, like everything else from 25 feet away, and it's just cashing these shots, and you're like, what is this? And he was already selected to be in the McDonald's All-American, so like the gym was crazy.
Yep.
Obviously, everybody knew he was going to Duke. It was an insane atmosphere. It was so cool to get to experience that stuff. And then
So
I saw him at his prom that year or his senior year. I went to a prom with a girl from Cave Spring and talked to him again there. I was like, talked to him about the game. He remembered the game, the high school game at least anyway, and all that. And then talked to him a little bit about Duke. He was really cool, down to earth, kind of like a frat boy, but he was, he did his thing. So
so I had brought up, I think it was after the ASU game when you guys did your spaces, and Jeff and I talked about it on my last podcast. Have we settled on a comp for Khan? Because I brought up, is he just a bigger JJ Redick?
he's
And
better than JJ because he can score in
yeah,
the
I
interior.
agree. I agree. And Jeff was like, well, they've morphed. Like,
Hmm.
what's the comp isn't what I guess the comp is we're trying to think of what Khan will be.
Right,
And Jeff was like, well, I guess if he's a 45% spot up shooter in the NBA, that's a pretty good career, which is
right.
completely, but like JJ and Khan both started where they were ball dominant on
Hmm.
their high school team. attacked, shot, whatever, and then it slowly morphed. And because I said, is Khan going to get labeled or become just this shooter? And that's
Hmm.
it. Even though he can do more, and JJ could do more too.
Yeah.
That you know what I mean? So I don't, and we've talked about comp all the times with Khan. I don't, I'm not, I haven't settled anywhere yet because I still think he's progressing into something.
Hmm.
But I don't know what you guys. I'm assuming I know you guys have talked about it. I'm just curious
Yeah.
where you guys are at now or where you're at.
I mean, my brother does not throw around praise very highly, especially when it comes to Duke guys. He's my brother's not a big Duke fan. Um, and he's played college basketball and everything. Like he knows, he's not a regular fan where it's just bias or whatever. He's just not very complimentary towards Duke guys in a lot of cases. He has been lately because you can't help it because Duke guys are incredible.
Yeah.
But he immediately, I was actually talking to him yesterday about it, and first person he immediately came up with was Luca. He's like Luca, and I was like, I can see why you say that. I don't know that he'll facilitate as much as Luca in the league.
No. Yeah.
But so and I know we talked about it when we did his player profile. You came on our show. It's Paul Pierce for me, man. I'm telling you,
Okay.
like I think he becomes Paul Pierce. I think right now in college, he's like he reminds me of what Mike Dunleavy was when he was at Duke.
Yeah. You say
Um,
Dunleavy a lot. Yeah.
except for he's going to score more than Dunleavy did for that championship team. And even the year after, because you had a Jason Williams. Like if there was a Jason Williams on this team, then Khan would be second fiddle to him
Sure.
because anyone on earth would be, but he would still be incredibly effective. And that's what Mike Dunleavy was. But the way he gets his shots and things, it really does remind me of Dunleavy, man, because Dunleavy was the same way. He could get because he's 6'9", he could get his shots on the interior, against pressure, against body and everything else. He really became that. Whereas, early on in his career, he was kind of just a spot up shooter because he just wasn't strong enough to handle things in the interior. But I think Khan is very similar to Dunleavy. Dunleavy was a little more athletic, like run and jump athletic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just because that was his profile. But in terms of how they play the game, I think he's very similar to Dunleavy. I think
Yeah.
that's probably his floor in the NBA, quite honestly. Like I think it's his floor. I'm
Yeah.
like what Dunleavy did in the league, which was incredible. He was great. He was very consistent for an entire NBA career. I think that's Khan's floor.
The Luca thing's interesting. Jeff and I talked about that too, and I'm like, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Hmm.
His comp is not that he's going to be the best player in basketball.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No.
Like that, I'm just as much as I love Khan, I'm not
Hmm.
going to project him as the greatest basketball player in the country or in the world, as you can basically say that about Luca for the most part. But
Exactly.
he moves like the way he
He
plays is
does.
a lot like Luca. Like
He does.
Luca's not overly, he's not, he just has
Right.
angles,
And that's
So
where I come with the Paul Pierce comp because that was Pierce. Pierce is the same way. I mean, he morphed into just kind of like a long 3-point shooter eventually, just because I don't think he was really able to move as much because of his back. But kind of in his prime, like that was Paul Pierce. It was angles. It was I'm not fast, but I'm gonna use my body against you. Had really long arms for someone who's 6'7". So he was kind of able to stretch a little more. So it was like that. That's Paul Pierce. And that's Khan to me, man. I really think they're very similar.
well, so we'll get comps when he gets to the NBA draft combine, but I don't think Khan has long arms. Like
No, no, he doesn't have the long Paul Pierce
he's
arms. No.
he's going to be a Reddick. He's going to be a
Yeah.
Reddick, a negative. I don't know if he's going to be a negative wingspan, but
Right.
which isn't a
Even
bad thing for
probably.
shooting. They've
Right, right.
right guys. I hate Paul Pierce. I can't. I don't
I
hate the
you,
comp. I
I'm with
cannot
you.
stand Paul Pierce.
I don't like him. I don't like him as a
Oh
player or whatever. Like couldn't stand him. But I mean, just how he got his shots and things, it was just incredible. I mean, that was like truly like angles, body, everything that Khan does well already.
yeah,
And
and
he was the same way at Kansas too. He was a little more run and jump at Kansas, but it was kind of the same thing.
and the thing is too, and we've mentioned this is that you get stuck like comping Khan with white guys.
Right, right.
It's just you don't think about non-white guys that
Yeah.
it might be the player that he is.
Right.
You get stuck in this Joe Harris stuff, and
Exactly. And he's not that at all. Like
yeah,
he's
no,
so much better than Joe
yeah, yeah.
Harris.
I'm anxious to see how he progresses.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So we started this on the face guarding stuff. Any other takeaways from the Army game?
Um, I thought because of how Army played, because Army boxing won him at one point.
And
And
not even
boxing
just in
went two.
con, just in general, the game
Yeah.
itself.
Um, I thought it was honestly the team they didn't look quite as focused as they did against Maine as they did against Arizona State. I thought they looked a little distracted. It's funny, I don't know if it's like I don't know if that's a difficult game for them to get up for because they're not really trying to disrespect Army because especially because it's Coach K and everything else. It was the same thing when K teams played Army, like the Paulo team played Army, the Zion team played Army, the Battier team played Army. And all of those games they weren't good. Like they were kind of just like mundane games. I think Jason Williams scored like 10 points when the Bad A team that won the title played Army. So I feel like it's one of those games that you don't necessarily like they don't get up for it the same way. And I think that showed on the court. It didn't look like they were out to just kill
Yeah.
like the Army guys. And usually Army teams are a lot scrappier than that team was in particular. They had a couple scrappy players, but I did think that we struggled a little bit handling what they wanted to do on the interior at first defensively, and then we learned it really quickly and then changed the game.
Yeah. What's
Like the
yeah, it's one
first,
of those
yeah,
things. It's one of those things that's you start out slow. It's gonna correct at some point and they'll be
yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
Do you, any concern? So we got 2 games in. We got Kentucky
Hmm.
Tuesday. Any concerns other than Cooper Flag cramping?
You're right, right. And then he just got his Gatorade NIL. Like
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Gatorade, fix your stuff, man.
yeah,
That's not a good look, Gatorade.
yeah. I don't know if I'm assuming everyone who's played any kind of sport at some point has had a cramp in their life.
Oh yeah,
They are terrible.
yeah. It's
Like
debilitating.
it's the worst. So I can't even imagine how much pain it is. But any 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 basketball concerns that you have?
Sure. I want to see this team be able to. I want to see Kama Malawach and Coop at times probably, and even Khan against smaller guards. I want to see John utilize some actual post touches that don't involve motion. I think we've been in this 5 out mode right now, and that's what he wants to foster right now. I think the team will evolve a little bit, and that I think we'll see that. But I do want to see that because against better teams, you're going to have to get those types of points at times, and you have a monster in Kama Malawach that's going to be able to do that. And he's gifted offensively already. He's that's actually the strength of his game. But I know people are going to want to say free throws and things that gets learned, especially with a young team. That becomes better as the season goes on. So that's not a concern for me yet. Um, Honestly, I do think at some point it's gonna have to be figured out who's gonna have the balls at Caleb or is it Tyrese. I think that's gonna have to be figured out at some point. Again, better teams defensively are gonna be able to kind of key and stop what you want to do when you have kind of almost two de facto point guards. Tyrese has kind of not been a point guard. He's been more of like that Quinn Cook role of like catch and shoot, things like that. So I think John is kind of, pun intended, kind of fostering Caleb Foster to become that point guard because in this day and age, you want the guy handling the ball the most to be one of your top scorers as well.
Sure.
And so I think that's why I think he knows that Tyrese Proctor can't do that, especially his ability. He can't really score on the interior, but Caleb can, and I think that's why Caleb has the ball. So I want to make sure that gets ironed out exactly as it needs to be. And hopefully Caleb is capable of carrying a team that's this talented like that. So far, he's shown he's proven to do that, but this test against Kentucky is going to be a good one because it's like that's you're going against experienced point guards and things. So how do you handle that?
Yeah. I worry a tad about Malawach's defense.
Yeah,
Like that main guy
yeah,
scored on him.
yeah. He did. No, he old manned him. He like it was, and that's one of my gripes with Common is he cannot be as reactionary as he is on the defensive side. But there's going to be spectacular plays he makes, and people are going to go ooh and ah. But then if you break it down, you're going to say, well, it happened because he missed an assignment.
Yeah.
The Zion Williamson block against UVA comes to mind. That was a missed assignment, not by Zion, but that was a missed assignment on the defense, and Zion had to go clean it up.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen a lot with Common as well, and smarter teams are going to take advantage of that. But yeah, I'm absolutely with you. He has to and really impart that part of the defense of being able to anticipate what's happening because he's a good communicator. He
Mhm.
actually talks a lot, which usually means you should be able to react to it. But I think he relies on that athleticism to react as opposed to anticipating. That's why a guy like Malik Brown is so important.
Yep.
Because if Common is having that type of trouble, you take him out and you put Malik in. Malik is incredible. That guy he
Yeah.
does so many little basketball things. It's insane.
So if we look at the next 2 weeks, we've got Kansas and
Hmm.
Dickinson. Like that's the next worry to me is
Yeah,
what is Dickinson going to do to Malawach
yeah,
possibly? And is Shire just going to put Brown on him and be like
right.
because
I think he'll
yeah,
I think he'll start with Common on. I think
yeah,
he'll
I agree. I think he will for sure. Yes.
I'm almost wondering if he will show him video or at least work on what they did with Derek Lively the first time that Duke played UNC, where he just played completely straight up, was not trying to block shots, literally just put his hands up in the air to make the shot have to go as high as it possibly could. And I think that's what you do with Hunter Dickinson because he's going to hit you with a bunch of post moves and he can step out to hit a three. I think if he's out on the perimeter, Common can handle that. But I think on the interior, I mean, and you're talking about, fifth year senior, not saying that the refs are going to cheat and, give him a bad whistle. But if the call is close at all, they're going to call it on
Yeah.
Malawach as opposed to, not on Dickinson. So I think we have to attack Dickinson, honestly, get him in foul trouble because he's a defensive liability.
Yeah. I don't know a ton about Kentucky's team.
Hmm.
I expect us to win easily. No, I shouldn't
Yeah.
say easily, but I expect us to. I
Hmm.
think the Arizona Kansas games are the two that are
Yep.
like, what are
Me
we?
too.
What is this team going to look like? The good thing is you've got. I think it's safe to say that Cooper and Connor are the two of the best freshmen in the
Hmm.
country. Clearly,
Yeah.
they're so not freshmen,
Right.
and I think everyone knows what that means. Like they don't play
Yep.
like inexperienced
Yeah.
freshmen. They're smart. They know how to play the game. So I don't normally you worry about freshmen. Like you worry about
Hmm.
Malawach, right? You worry about
Hmm.
him because he is raw and he is a freshman.
Yep.
Where Cooper and Connor like,
No
oh,
worries. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the last couple of years of freshmen have been, kind of quite frankly, kind of bad. And I think one of the things that came about because of that is the COVID. They missed a lot of time in high school because of COVID. And so the past couple of groups, you've seen it suffer. You've seen the recruiting classes suffer because they didn't have tournaments. They weren't able to practice the same way, all those things. Whereas now you're seeing a group that returned and got to they got to start doing activities again, and B, just in general, that's this freshman class was really really good. And that happens from time to time. There's just good classes and there's bad classes. So I think we're in that mode of where this is a good class. I mean, there's so many freshmen across the nation right now that are playing incredibly. But when it comes to Duke, especially in these matchups where you're playing these older teams, Coop and Con hold their own. They're not afraid of age. Like age doesn't matter to them. You're not gonna outsmart them. You're not like the things that veterans do, the little moves they learn to make and how they learn to, work the refs and things. Like you don't have that problem with Connor Coop.
yeah, agreed.
And Kentucky is old. They kind of play a similar system. They play five out. At times they play four in, or one in, four out because they have Mari Williams. Who's been a monster on the boards and things, but he's also played against two teams where tallest players like 6'9". They don't really have a post presence, so he's taking advantage of that. Very athletic guy. Kind of like Common in terms of the reactionary type of play, using length to make plays, things like that. So that's actually going to be an interesting matchup, those two, and then Malik as well against Mari Williams. That's kind of the biggest post presence they have. Um, they have Kobe Bray from Dayton, who was a six man before, and now he's thrust into the starting role. I'm very interested to see, to see how he handles things and see how he handles Duke. Um, because he's kind of just he doesn't there's not a lot of movement there. It's the movement's based within the offense, and then they look for an open shot after some screening and things like that. It's what if you remember what Mark Pope did at BYU, it's that. Like he that is who he is, that's what he wants, and that's what the team he has. So look at some BYU tape and you can tell exactly what Kentucky's gonna do. But the guys make shots, they're tough. And then you have Andrew Carr, who's 6'11". Not a rebounder by any stretch of the imagination. He doesn't really do a lot of the interior stuff you want him to do other than he can block shots, but he can take you inside out, and that's tough with somebody who's 6'11". So I'm assuming that's going to be Coop's assignment at first, and then probably Malik Brown comes in alongside Kama Malawach, who can still guard Williams, and then because I think they want to keep Coop off Carr if possible. I think that'd be best. Mason Gillis can probably handle him at times because he can guard him from the perimeter, but Carr will take you inside, and he's a talented scorer in the interior too. He's a tough kid. They play 10 guys like us, but I think in a tight game like this, they'll probably shrink it down to about eight. But they're
Do
eight.
we play 10?
Uh,
We play nine-ish.
I think we play eight, and then I think that Darren and or Isaiah gets in maybe for a couple 5 minute stretches.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say Isaiah's the nine, it looks like, and Darren's the 10.
yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, but what was it, Maine? I think Darren came in first for Maine, right? And then Isaiah came in first against
Oh, did
Army,
he?
if I'm not
I
mistaken.
thought it was flipped. I could be wrong. Yeah, okay.
So it's like, who knows?
Yeah,
Like, who knows
true.
what's gonna happen, right? And what do you need at the time? Because I think
Yeah.
Darren's a better shooter right now than Isaiah is.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But Isaiah is one of those guys who can just get you 10 points in a row.
Yeah.
And you might need that. So, it'll be interesting to see who comes in first out of those two. And I think both could probably see the game. Just, this early in the season, John wanting to see what he has, but it's a competitive game, and if it is competitive, like truly competitive, like NCAA tournament competitive, I think you see 8. I think you see the five starters and those 3 transfers.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you have any surprises on the rotation, but I'm assuming that's kind
Not
of, you kind of
really.
gave the answer. There really hasn't been. I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
everything that's happened has kind of been expected.
I think the
Uh,
biggest thing for me was Caleb Foster being the guy who ran the ball. I thought it'd be Tyrese to start the season.
Agreed. And I think, it was the main game where it's just it's strictly ride the hot hand, but like Khan didn't come out. Khan played the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He was the last one out, but it was
Yeah.
because he was scoring. And that's just that's the luxury you have with this team is like,
hmm
all right, this guy's scoring. He's going to play the first 10 minutes. I'll take him out when he needs to.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that really surprised me either as far as,
Nah.
but it'll be interesting when Tuesday and then
hmm
Kansas, Arizona, like if, when, if and when we get in tight games,
Right.
what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. I think at least for now it's going to be those 8. I think when it comes to the NCAA tournament, it'll probably be about 8. Whether one of the transfers gets replaced by somebody else, that's the big question, but I just don't see it yet
Neither, yeah.
because I mean Mason Gillis is too valuable on defense. Malik Brown is too valuable on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cian James can run the team as a point guard, and he's just, I mean, he's a brick, man. Like that,
He is ripped.
he's a brick.
Oh my God. They all come down the bench, right? Like, so my seat is right on the baseline essentially.
Okay,
And he walks past. I'm like, this guy is shredded.
he's a brick, man.
I cannot believe how muscular he is.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
That was one of my takeaways from being at the game. Like, okay, like, and Mile Watch is huge. Like, he's just
yeah.
enormous.
It's
Like,
yeah.
seeing Sion was like, I cannot believe how muscular this guy is.
He's
Like,
a brick. It's incredible, man. He's a brick, like, and he's nimble. Like that the spin he put on the army guy
yeah, yeah,
to avoid the charge. I was like,
yeah,
that shouldn't be normal. That
yeah.
shouldn't be normal, man.
It's a special year.
Yeah, it is. It's historic.
I mean, obviously I'm invested because of Khan, but like, I look back at my watching Duke
hmm
since I've ever been, a fan since I was like 9 or
Yeah.
10 years old. And I was all locked in on when Reddick was there. And, over the last few years, you kind of go up and down depending on who they're
hmm
recruiting the team is and things. And now I'm like more invested than ever. I'm just
Yeah.
aware of everything. You just pay attention more.
Yeah.
It makes more obviously it makes it more fun, but
hmm
problem is,
It's obvious with this team. I
yeah,
mean, there are teams like we have a Duke podcast. We've been running it for 7 years now. Obviously, we haven't won a title within that 7 years, but there's teams that we've had within that 7 year stretch where it's like, we can make a case on the podcast for why this team could win or whatever, and that's what we're supposed to do, right? Because it's a fan podcast. But in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I get it. Like they're just like they're not that like the last team that I was just like this is a special team. Like even in the off season, like with the freshmen coming in and things, it's like this is a special team. This is going to be a special year, and it was. I know how it ended, but it was a special year. It's that Palo team. Like the Palo team, you knew that was just a really good team. All the pieces there. They had all the things that you want. They had the depth. They had a point guard. They had a center. They had a spectacular player. They had all those things, and so that team and shooters, right? Like RJ or AJ Griffin and Trevor Keels or whatever. But you just knew that was a special team. Obviously, the season didn't end the way you want because the NCAA tournament is always going to NCAA tournament. But
yeah.
um, this is one of those special teams, man. There is no reason to like overthink it. It's just the team is incredible. The pieces are incredible. They are truly game-changing pieces all around. You have a 7'2" guy who can move like a gazelle down the floor, and if he spreads his arms, he covers the entire court. You have this hyper-competitive monster who is, destined for NBA greatness in Cooper Flag and Con Knipple as well as in the scoring aspect. He's an NBA player. And then you throw other NBA type players on the floor in terms of Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, and then you go to the bench and you have what everybody wants in college, which are role players who know their role, have played their role because they are transfers, like they're not freshmen, and so you have these super seniors coming off the bench, and for other teams, it's like, oh yeah, they have a bunch of super seniors, they're great, and it's like these guys are almost forgotten, and it's like how important are they for a team that's this talented, right?
Yeah, I think obviously with Duke fans, I mean, every year you want to win the championship, but you really do look at this team and you're like, that's
It's a championship team.
what should happen.
Yep.
I mean,
It's a
it's
championship team.
one game you can lose, but that's what should happen.
Exactly. It's a championship team. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think there should be many doubts. There are doubts in other people's minds or whatever, but I think Duke fans are, at least because we're biased, at least, but we're all on board. I think it's obvious. This is not like the Brandon Ingram, Grayson Allen team, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell there's a difference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when I started to talk to Jeff about it, because Jeff doesn't he's fully admits he's like, I don't know a ton about the roster, but he was like when he watched, I think it was the ASU game, he said there is a lot of talent on that team. Like
yeah.
he's like, I don't know how it plays out. He's like, but that team is loaded with talent.
hmm
And that's clear as
And it's
day.
and it's well placed talent. Like
Yeah.
John has deliberately brought these guys in for like almost like this moment. It's like these guys are here for this moment.
Yeah. And it's not raw talent. It's talent
Right.
that is refined. Like they know what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
ready. The freshmen are, as we said, the freshmen are ready to play. They're not learning. There's not a
Yeah.
learning curve for these guys. They know exactly what to do.
Sitting on the sideline, did you get to hear much from the Duke huddle at all in terms of John? Like did you come away impressed with what he does as a
I
young
couldn't hear
coach?
I couldn't hear
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was probably more concerned with just taking it in. And
Yeah.
so my phone was during the game, my phone was in my pocket. And then
Yeah.
when I would break, I'm like, all right, now I gotta take some snaps or whatever and
Yeah. Yeah.
put some pictures, whatever. So it's so loud in there.
I know, man. It is. It is.
It's
It get
great.
in good games, it gets so loud. It's just, in big moments it gets so loud. And that was Maine, man. Like
Yeah.
that was it gets juiced up. Like there's another level,
Yeah.
another two levels beyond that.
Well, it was the first, the good thing is, it was the first game. So obviously everyone was jacked up
hmm
about it because it was just the season's finally here.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so
Yeah, a
yeah.
lot of aura around this team too. That's
Yeah.
another thing that makes them special. Is like the attention's around them as well. Like
Yeah.
people know, they know they'll find out very soon. Just like the Zion team, because they were young, the media wanted to doubt them, and then the media went way overboard when they beat Kentucky by 44 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
But but yeah, no, they'll find out. They'll find out really quick.
Yeah. I'm excited. Well, when I go in January, I'll pay attention to the huddle more. Um, I
Hopefully
just
I'm there with. Hopefully I'm there with you.
I was
You
just so
guys.
happy to be there. I'm just like
Yeah,
I'm trying to take it all in
yeah.
and look at the place. It's so cool. It's just so old. Like I'm looking at like at some point they're gonna have to like kind of do some renovations around
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
like the bathroom when we walked out at halftime, we were gonna go try to get a drink. There was 100 people, 100 guys in line
yeah.
for the bathroom, and I'm like, thank God I don't have to piss. But then we
And
got to
believe it or not, that's been renovated too. Like they still have the trough, but
yeah, troughs
that
are there.
thing's
There's like six
yeah,
people, six
yeah.
guys piss at a time. But like we got to the drinks, and then me and another one of Jeff's friends, I'm like, there's 20 people in line. And I
hmm
set my timer for the halftime timer because I'm not missing the start of the second half.
Yeah,
And I sat there and I said, we're not going to get a drink. There's no way in hell we're getting this drink in 7 minutes.
yeah,
So we left and took a piss real quick and then went back. But there's not a lot of time to get up and to get a drink
no,
and then get back to your seat.
yeah.
It's quick, but it's such a unique place.
It
Such a
is,
unique
man.
place.
It
But
is.
there's a lot of old aspects to it. Like at some point you got to fix some of this stuff. Maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I mean,
know.
the big renovation was adding air conditioning in like the mid 2000s. I
Yeah.
was like,
Well, now
come on, man.
they got a brand new scoreboard now,
Yeah, yeah. The scoreboard's nice. Yep.
when we after the game, Khan took us out towards, to where the K Center is, and I didn't realize it, but he's like, "This is the original outside
hmm
of Cameron," and then
Yeah,
they built onto it. So
yeah.
that hallway by the locker room is all brick
Right.
because that was what it was, So that was kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
But I mean, the inside is it's not what you would expect out of a
hmm
top college basketball program.
Yep. Yep.
But it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect that people have argued and debated like do you make a bigger arena? Do you add seats? The answer is no. And the reason the answer is no, just look down, the 7 miles over to the left to Chapel Hill. I mean, the exhibition game, with Arizona State, the exhibition game with Lincoln was packed.
Yeah.
And then you look at Carolina and you had their couple of exhibitions and there were empty seats all over the place. I mean, their night with Hubert or whatever was, dead. Like it was empty. Like the building was empty. And whereas, in Cameron, count down the craziness, like the place is packed.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, you keep it as is, man. Like it's the atmosphere is unmatched. Like it's incredible.
And it's not, you can get a ticket.
Yeah.
Like you may pay $200,
Right.
Like it's not impossible to get into. If you want to go to a
Exactly.
Duke game, you can go to a Duke
You can
game.
go. Yeah.
So there's no reason to really build anything bigger.
Hmm.
You would lose so much of that feeling of that
You would.
just how cool it is.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they ever would, but I
Yeah.
mean, well, someday maybe, but
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be pressure one day to do something different. And maybe they design something where it's similar, but you have more seats. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, as it is right now, man, it's just so perfect, and it's so perfect for that campus. Like I said, like you don't know that that's Cameron until you just walk up on it and see the sign. You're like, oh wait, this is Cameron. Like,
yeah.
oh, I didn't notice that.
When do they start
Um,
camping out?
so while you were there, if they were not in Kville already, what they might have done, because they've been doing this, they might have moved the tents into the Wallace Wade. Um, because I think Duke played at NC State this past weekend. I don't think they had a home game, but a lot of times they'll move the tents into Wallace Wade, keep them in line, so they don't lose the integrity of the line, and then they move them back into Kville, like during the week and such. But yeah, a lot of times they'll move them off the lawn there.
Okay, yeah, because it was just grass. I mean, people were hanging
Yeah.
out there, but it was just grass and
Yeah, no, they already started the tent. They had the tents up during CTC. Actually, they left the tents up for
oh, okay.
CTC. Whereas last year they put all the media in Kville and moved all the tents to Wallace Wade. They actually kept them for CTC, kept them in Wallace Wade, which made a cool, kind of atmosphere for when they did the walk.
Okay.
Because they kind of walked in between the tents, which
Okay.
that was kind of cool. The blue carpet or whatever.
Okay, yeah. So just if for anyone who hasn't been there, Shashevskyville, Kville is not very large.
No, no,
It's just like
it's a
a
couple
little like
patches
a
of
lawn.
grass.
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
patch of grass. So I was expecting it to be bigger
All right,
because we
right.
walk up and we see this. We're like, is this it? And then you see the sign. I'm like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not big at all.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
man, everything about it. It's just it's the grandeur of TV, right? Like it
yeah,
everything just looks bigger and more impressive and more grandiose than it actually is. And then you get there and you're like, wait, this is it? But then you get it. Like when you
yeah,
feel like when they're there and like when they remove the tents for the UNC game and stuff and all the crazies there in Kville, and it's just, I mean, the atmosphere is just, it's just a buzz. And then you go inside the building, and then going into Cameron, even going to Cameron when nobody's in there, like when they have the bleachers pushed back and everything, it's just like it's cool because it's Cameron, but it's just like it's like a gym, it's like a high
yeah,
school gym.
yeah,
But then it just transforms when everybody's in there and they're cheering and everything else. It's just completely transformative.
yeah.
It's almost like I get what you're saying about like you didn't want to like think about the experience too much until you got there so you could really feel it. It's almost like you go there when it's empty and then see it that way, and then you
Yeah.
see it transform, and it's like it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. The first thing I noticed when we came to campus was the chapel is enormous, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I've seen that on stuff that I've got catalogs that I've been sent
Yep,
in
yep.
my mail, whatever. So we went and checked that out. That was really cool. This all the buildings
Does
are.
Khan have a picture at the top of the chapel?
I don't
I
know.
know that's the thing they do with a lot of recruits. They'll take them up in the tower, take them to the top, and
Oh,
and let them see and take some pictures there. There's a famous picture of Kyrie holding up his Duke #1 jersey, when Duke recruited him at the top of the chapel, and
oh,
that actually made it actually leaked out, and that was kind of like that was one of the first like kind of those like not social media, but one of the first kind of social media type moments where I was like with recruiting, where
yeah.
this picture leaks out, and then everybody on like Twitter and everything else are like, "Hey, this picture leaked. Like this is happening. Like, dude, he's going to Duke and stuff like that." Because there's a picture of him holding up a #1 Irving jersey on top of the chapel
Oh, okay. I don't know.
with
I
his
haven't.
dad.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, okay.
But that's the first thing when you're just kind of like your head is on a swivel, kind of looking for everything because it's not you don't drive up and see Cameron Indoor. You
Hmm.
you drive right past it,
Yeah,
but the chapel sticks out when you look like,
it
oh, well,
does.
I've seen that. So
It does. It's like a landmark. Like if I'm like driving around, because Duke's Camp is actually kind of hard to get around. It's like just because it's going through the trees and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Not a lot of direct roads and stuff, but where you when you see the chapel, like you know where you are.
Yeah, so then we came in on that main road, but then when we came back for the game, we got dropped off. Our Uber took us like by the Washington Duke Country Club, whatever. The
The
golf
Washington Duke, yep, yep.
Wadu is what they call it
Well,
apparently.
I do, yep.
So we went there after the game.
Did you? You went to the
Yeah.
Wadu?
11 o'clock and it was last call. We're like,
Yep.
what? Apparently, which happens all the time. Wadu,
Yeah.
whoever's listening from the Wadu, keep your last call open a little bit later for God's sake. Like,
They kept it open the night the Coach K
jeez.
night, his last night at Cameron. Like the Wadu was open probably till like 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we got
They
there
were
like
they were out late.
we got there a little before 11 and they're like, oh, it's
Yep.
last call. I'm like, seriously?
Yep. Yep.
So we got one drink there, but yeah. So we went in that back way when we walk into the to Cameron Indoor, and it's like
Yep.
the track and everything is, and it's just it's just all cool. There's like
It
some
is,
just
man.
random people at 7 o'clock at night just walking the track,
Yep.
walking and running the track.
Yep.
So okay, but that's all I got.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
any final thoughts? Any other thing you wanted to get off your chest?
No, no, this has been great, man. I've loved being able to come on here. Again, you know, I know this. You Khan is he's special. Like that's just I'm so happy to see what he's doing. I hope his brothers can follow follow suit. Maybe not to his degree, but they'll make their own name too. I think. Or they'll just be Conquistador's brothers, and that'll be
Yeah, yeah,
that'll be fine too.
yeah. It's fun. Like it's just fun to. So he came and watched a Packer game with us when we were down there, and
Hmm.
then he was with us after the game on Monday. It's nice to just hang out with him and not talk like we talked a little bit
Yeah,
basketball,
yeah,
but just to talk about random stuff. Like,
sure, sure,
because and I know I try not to talk to him. I talk to him about basketball because it's just
right.
what you're used to doing. But like I always try to like be mindful of like he doesn't want to
Hmm.
talk about basketball all the time. Just let him be a kid. Like
Right,
he's still
right,
a kid. He's still a kid. Like, how's class going? How
exactly.
you know,
Right, right.
so it's just fun to kind of hang out like there. And then you get the you get the uh you get the Norgards together. So it was Jeff and his two
Yeah.
sisters, and they start going off on tangents of sports, and it's like, holy hell.
How often are they gonna get to go down to games? Are they gonna try to split and just one goes or whatever because they got the kids and everything? Or like, what's they just kind of
Sher-
not going or?
Jerry's plan is to go to every single game,
Wow, good
home
for
and
her.
away.
Good for her. That's
So
impressive.
Con Con one
Hmm.
is a guidance counselor at uh, a school in Milwaukee. So
Okay.
he's not as flexible.
Sure, sure.
So I think he's getting if I look at the spreadsheet that Sherry made for the games for the season, I think he's about getting about half of them.
Okay, okay.
They were all down there at the Army game on
Yeah,
Friday, the whole family.
yeah.
I don't know how many of the kids are. I mean, they're going to start basketball in
Right.
2 weeks. So, but yeah, Sherry's getting every one of them. She says she
Awesome.
is. Sounds like she is.
Shouts to Sherry. Thank you, by the way. She always likes our stuff on Twitter. Very appreciative of that.
Yeah,
Well, I want to meet if I come down. If I come down when you guys come down, I want to meet Sherry.
Sherry's awesome. She's so much fun.
Yeah,
She's so much fun.
absolutely. She's great.
So, all right, I got nothing else. We'll
Yeah,
have to
Sam.
do this again at some point mid-season, maybe
Absolutely.
touch base again after they get some of these.
And we'll have you on as well. So
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I'll come on whenever as long as it fits my schedule. I'll talk Duke till
yeah,
I'm blue in the face.
awesome.
So, all right. Well, you got my number. I got your number. So we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for hopping on, man.
All right, Sam.
Appreciate it. We'll see you
Take
later.
care.